led by Chief Executive Officer Judith Alpuche of the Ministry of Human Development and Social Transformation and Executive Director and Chairperson Laura Tucker-Longsworth of the National AIDS Commission. The overarching theme of the discussion was national development and how equal opportunities for men and women fit within that context.
But if we are to achieve national development, we have to be firing on all cylinders. We have to make sure that we have an environment where people can contribute to national development and not have all these barriers that are based on their otherness. That we see people for who they are. So that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish with this bill. And as I said, it's very important that we have all inputs. At the end of the day, I believe that there will be a net positive effect. That we have to take intentional steps to ensure that all those types of discrimination in our country that exist, that those are neutralized, that people are not adversely affected by the varied types of discrimination that exists in this country. And I think at the end of the day, that we will have a better society, that we will have better public services, because a part of this is about how does a public officer has to serve without fear or favor indeed, and can't be biased against you because of certain characteristics.
The Equal Opportunities Bill is of serious concern for the National Evangelical Association of Belize, NEAB, which has come out strongly against the proposed legislation because of the perceived same-sex agenda. NEAB has also been staunchly against the repealing of Section 53 of Belize's Criminal Code. The issue was raised pointedly during Monday night's forum.
Why we are against this legislation is because this legislation seeks to fundamentally change Belize, fundamentally change our culture. It's easy for you to come here and try to sugarcoat this so that it sounds good and we can swallow it and say the legislation is okay. But 5 years from now and 10 years from now, we have to live with the reality of what this legislation will mean. Nobody will say, well, Mr. Broderick didn't say it would be like this. Nobody will care what you said tonight. What matters is what is written in the bill and what that means for Belize. People will use this legislation to lobby for gay marriage. They will say, if I can't marry whom I want, I am being discriminated against. They will say, if I can't go to school dressed as a transgender, I am being discriminated against. They will say, if I want this bakery to make a cake for my gay wedding, and they say no, they're discriminating against me. They will say, if I want this church band to play at my gay wedding, and they say no, that's discrimination. I can take them to court. They will say, if I want my son to use the female bathroom, nobody can say no. And it won't matter what Mr. Broderick says tonight.
The murder of 3-year-old Mark Toyo Jr. has pushed the issue of domestic violence to the front burner. Domestic violence is pervasive and has become commonplace to a point where it is casually addressed in everyday conversation. In her interview on Sunday with the biological father of the 2-year-old children, he described an incident where he was physically assaulted by Kenrick Longsworth, but not before he laid hands on the mother of his children. It was discussed so matter-of-factly as if it was normal. Psychotherapist Jennifer Lovell weighs in on the vicious cycle of domestic violence.
Somehow, we have become very desensitized to domestic violence. I kind of listened last night, and it was so normalized. Everybody talked about domestic violence, and she get beat up, and him, the father, you know, I box you up a little bit. It's very normalized. We no longer think about that it's not okay to lay your hands on me. It's not okay to put your hand in my face. And it's definitely never okay to hit my children. As a parent, We have the ultimate responsibility to protect our children. I want women to understand. Stop just jumping in with these fellows that you don't know. It's so important. You've got to get to know people. Now, if you are in a domestic violence situation where you are being beaten, it is so important that you tell somebody. Find a way to get out. If you don't have money, go to women's department. Those ladies at women's department will go to bat for you.
Equally concerning is the issue of child sexual abuse resulting from pedophilia. According to Lovell, this kind of predatory behavior often manifests itself in situations where children are groomed by the step-parent.
We have a lot of pedophiles here, you know. These are people, men and women, who like young children. And I'm not talking about the 13, 15, 16-year-old. I'm talking about babies. They will actually court a woman who has children because they want the children, not the woman. But to get to the children, they have to go with the woman. And so they will court the woman and have access to her children because she will be like this loving father, this caring father, this caring person. And they start grooming the child. The intent is to groom the child so, to the extent where the child, it's normal for the child to maybe touch their organs or to do kinds of things because they will, over time, get them, we call it approximate the behaviors. That's what grooming is. And ultimately, then they will have sex. And they get the child, they bring the child in that we're keeping secrets from your mom. And if the child then begins to feel guilty, they then start threatening the child. So the child does not go and talk to tell the parent anything or tell any grandparents or teachers. Okay? Grooming is insidious because it's done over time right there in your home.
At this time, the inauguration of the new Guatemalan president, Alejandro Giammattei, has been delayed for hours. The event is to take place at the National Theater in Guatemala City, but reports say that a number of delegations have left due to the tardiness of the start of the ceremony. Giammattei ran 3 campaigns and was successful on the 4th last year in August. He is known as a conservative who is against issues such as abortion. One of his first orders of business today was a meeting with U.S. officers of the Trump administration on an asylum agreement which was agreed to by his predecessor, Jimmy Morales. In his campaign, he did not support the agreement, which would make Guatemala a buffer zone to reduce U.S. asylum claims. This afternoon, a new Congress was sworn in, but as we said, the investiture ceremony has been delayed. In Guatemala for the ceremony is Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber. After the break, does BTO owe $25 million in taxes? The FinSec gives an update on the audit.
Signing up for Smart's broadband got even better. You can now bundle and get a free
The Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
The Belize Tax Service is holding on to its position that Belize Telemedia Limited owes millions of dollars in taxes to the government of Belize. The department initiated an audit of BTL's account last year and reviewed a trove of documents that showed that BTL owed up to $29.3 million for the period 2012 to 2017. The chairman of the board of Belize Telemedia Limited and its CEO have firmly denied that the company owes any taxes. Both parties are interpreting the GST Act differently, which prompted the Belize Tax Service and BTL to obtain legal advice on the matter. Depending on that legal advice, it will be determined if court action will be taken against BTL. Financial Secretary Joseph Waite explains.
Okay, the audit has not yet been finalized. Where we are is this, that we've decided, both parties have decided to take legal advice on the matter. Therefore, BTL is seeking its legal advice, and we are seeking our legal interpretation. So we went to our lawyers, and we expect to get responses, and then we hope to, based on that, we find where we're going. Well, whether the interpretation as to whether the tax is owed or not, and the treatment, how the interpretation of the GST Act, especially when it comes to within funny transactions. Well, what happened is this: the auditors went in and are seeing it one way. Of course, the company sees it a different way. So we both decided, let's get some legal advice to see if whose interpretation is correct. Well, if we diverge, then there's another step. I can't say we're going to court, but let's hope that both legal share the same view. But we don't know. It's a little early yet because we haven't seen it yet.
Reynaldo Verde, former Deputy Director of the Belize Tax Service, remains incarcerated in the U.S. after he was nabbed by FBI officials on September 7, 2019 on a charge of extortion and attempted extortion. Verde has denied any wrongdoing. The allegation brought against him was made by owner of Orchid Bay in Corozal, Chris Williams, who says that Verde attempted to collect $350,000 to wipe away taxes owed by Orchid Bay. At the time, the government said that Verde's employment status was unknown since he pleaded not guilty. The Public Service Commission was to determine Verde's employment status, but as Financial Secretary Joseph Waite confirmed, Verde has applied for early retirement. If the commission approves the request, Verde will receive a small pension.
He must anticipate a small pension if his retirement is approved. They're still in the process. He had applied to retire. Early retirement, it's within the public service regulations. After you serve so many years, you can ask for an early retirement. His request is going through in front of the Public Service Commission. If it's approved, then he would get a small pension when he turns 55. I don't know his exact age, but he's a young man. I think he's in his mid-40s.
Jamoke Castro, son of UDP Minister Edmund Castro, is yet to be charged for what is considered a threat of rape against Plus TV's Shasta Wade. Castro was placed on administrative leave with full pay after he appeared on social media making vile comments against Wade. His own party has denounced his actions, with Prime Minister Dean Barrow sharing his sense of outrage, disgust, and revulsion. Castro's job is on the line because a complaint was made against him to the Public Service Commission for bringing the public service into disrepute. Financial Secretary Joseph Waite says that Castro will be served a letter to explain his actions, after which it will be decided if he will face the commission.
There was a complaint that he brought the public service into disrepute by his actions. The first step is to place him on leave while we assess what the situation is. The second step would then be ask him to explain himself, because based on the allegations that he brought the public service into disrepute, and then depending on that, and that letter will be served to him shortly. He'll be given time to explain himself, and depending on the explanation, then we take up the case to the Public Services Commission. So there are certain steps we have to follow in accordance with the Constitution and in accordance with the public service regulations. The first step is to place the officer on administrative leave. That means leave with full pay, to give the employer time, the government time to look at the case. The second step is to say, okay, this is what we are seeing. Could you please explain yourself? And depending on the explanation, the third step for them to take the matter up to the Public Service Commission. He reported to work last Monday, I think it was, and he is the Monday before. I'm sorry. He was then given his letter on leave. That leave will expire shortly, and then he will be asked to explain himself. But there's a sequence, huh?
When we come back, overnight tourism is way, way up, according to the BTV stats. The Belize Tourism Board today announced that for the first time in the history of Belize's tourism industry, Belize surpassed the 500,000 mark in overnight arrivals last year. In 2019, 503,177 overnight visitors entered the country. This represents an increase of 2.8% compared to the figures for 2018. Tourism Minister Manuel Heredia Jr. says this milestone achievement in overnight arrivals can be attributed to many factors, including strategic marketing initiatives promoting Belize globally.
This is a significant achievement which indicates that Belize's tourism industry is on an upward swing and that the future has great promise and potential. There are many factors which have contributed to this milestone achievement. This include strategic marketing initiatives to promote Belize, collaboration with local and international agencies and partners, improvement in air connectivity, and many other impressive industry developments. While we take a well-deserved moment to celebrate reaching this record, this serves as our motivation to achieve even more in 2020. We will push forward, setting new milestones as we continue working with our valued partners and stakeholders in executing innovative strategies to market, develop, and enhance Belize tourism product.
Last week, the Nurses Task Force called out the Ministries of Health and Public Services for acting in bad faith. According to the task force, the ministries were failing to address issues affecting the nursing profession. In our story, we spoke with the president of the Nurses Association of Belize, Dara Spencer. Well, there is at least one nurse on record who says that he doesn't know when the task force was formed and he wants some clarity on the role of this body. The nurse is Andrew Baird. He's a former rep on the Nursing Association of Belize and describes himself as a nurse advocate. He visited News 5 because he claims that other nurses across Belize are concerned about movements in the association and want answers from the task force because nurses weren't consulted on this matter. Baird alleges that the current association doesn't have any teeth because the president has already served 2 terms, and according to the regulations, he can't serve beyond that period. Here's how he puts it.
I beg to question on many nurses within the country would want to know when was the task force was formed. Why was the 700 or so nurses of this country was not consulted? Why their input have not been valued as far as who represent them on a task force? Furthermore, what are the terms of reference for the task force? What I was made to understand, it is made up of nursing leaders from the various district hospitals or regions. Also include the former president, I say former president of the Nursing Association, because Mr. Dara Spencer and his group or organization is illegally representing the nurses of Belize on the nurses as the president of the Nursing Association in any capacity. I say that because 8 months ago, in May of 2019, at the nursing conference in Guatemalan, elections were held for a new executive of the NAB. Mr. Dara Spencer already served 2 terms. According to our constitution of the Nursing Association, he can only serve 2 terms, and nomination was held. But the election did not took place because he forgot or he did not do the ballots. So a new date was supposed to have set for election up to today date. Mr. Spencer and his group or company refused to have the election of the NAB so the nurses' needs and concerns can be resolved through that medium.
Have you guys tried the approach of going directly to the association or to the task force to get some answers?
The Nursing Association president does not want, whenever you try to contact him and try to speak to him, especially because he knows that he is illegally representing the nurses in that capacity, does not entertain you.
We reached out to President Dara Spencer for comment this evening, but our calls and messages went unanswered. Now, while Baird wants answers from the association in regards to the task force and elections, he says that he believes some of the points that they called for are legitimate. He told us that if nurses were consulted more, issues would have been included in the Nursing Task Force agenda with the Ministries of Health and Public Service. He shares some of those concerns.
We do not just have a succession issue in nursing in Guatemalan. We have a succession issue throughout the country of Belize. Why is that not being addressed on the agenda? We have the workplace violence. We want to see the general well-being of the nurses being addressed by our leadership. within the work. We want to hear and talks start with a health insurance for healthcare workers. In January of 2018, the Nursing Council, I believe, along with the ministry, had a conference, a two-day conference where they had consultant Dr. Diana Mason and Jane Savage, who are international consultant and policymakers, came to this country with a view at the end of the day for a framework to be developed to look after the future of nursing. Why is it that has not been addressed? Where is the recommendation? Where is the information from that council? So for so long, the curriculum for nursing at UB should have been addressed and still not addressed as yet. That is what the leadership of nursing should be looking after. We see 70 nurses taking what we call the regional exam, the RENR, 30 pass. Let's find out what is affecting our nurses, why we are failing.
Coming up after the break, the popular Dara feeding program needs urgent help to keep going.
With over one
Is the Dara feeding program closing its doors after 13 years? Not just yet, that is, if Joel Dara Robinson gets his way. The local philanthropist says that his feeding program is on life support and is in serious need of a boost. According to Robinson, he can no longer maintain the program because donations have all but stopped and support for fundraising efforts has dwindled over the past few years. Robinson called the media out to his house in Belize City just before lunchtime today to show what happens behind the scenes and to make a last pitch to business community and the wider public for help to make the program sustainable. Our reporter Andrea Polanco and cameraman Chris Mangar joined Robinson and other reporters today to learn more about the program and how you can help. The feeding program's beneficiaries are all minors, so to protect their identities, we've refrained from showing their faces. Here's his story.
My feeding program, they're on life support.
Dara Robinson says that he's struggling to keep his feeding program afloat.
I get glorify my name and my program, but basically me and my wife and day to day book with this, we keep this up, you understand? And I don't know how to explain because the kids then come and I have to provide.
As many as 50 students from nearby schools visit Dara's house where they get a hot meal and cold drink every day, 5 days a week. For many of these children, this is the only meal they'll get for the entire day. The program has been running for 13 years, but sponsorship has dried up. Robinson says that he can't fund the program anymore and he needs some help to make it sustainable. While he doesn't want to beg for help, he's desperate to keep it alive and wants the business community and public to chip in.
I try all kind of fundraising and try all kind of way to do it without go out there and beg for $1 and thing, but it seems that I have to come up with a next idea or how to seek funding for the feeding program. And I'm not bitter, but I feel only anger in me because I'm sounding where my life story and I know what it is to get one meal the afternoon. And I feel like the business players, the people there we could support and thing not really know exactly where they happen with the feeding program.
So for the public to see, Robinson invited the media to get a first-hand look at the feeding program operations. Robinson and his wife Melanie prepare the food in his kitchen and then take it out to the outdoor shed. Here, each student signs in before he or she receives a meal. Today, the menu is spaghetti. The students eagerly line up to get their meal and then they sit on the picnic-style tables to have lunch. When mealtime is over, the older students help out with their dishes. But according to Dara Robinson, what these children don't know is that today's lunch is the last meal he can prepare because his pantry and freezer are empty.
I use the last 10 pounds of grind steak.
That's it.
That's it right now. And to be honest, I use the last 10 pounds of grind steak where we cook today with spaghetti. And then, you know what I'm the plan for the really? I mean, I tell the kids that we are shed for right now and see where the fundraising and bring that at the level I made a look for deal with this week.
Robinson says that it pains him to see the lights go out on this program, so he's fighting to keep it alive because it means a lot to the children.
We don't know the situation. A lot of them picnic. Then you might see them dress up and look nice, go to school, but John knows some of them the behind the scene. When them kids come, you say how they light up and how they go and fight for position for who want get served first and thing. We even have kids here with behavioral problem we have to deal with. This is more than a feed picnic I deal with. Then kids come and needed footwear, thing for school and everything they come to me for like a father figure. That one tough battle, I understand, and I really want to champion it because I know the importance of it and I know where they benefit from it. I'm in this situation. And I think I don't want to shine a light to make this continue, make everybody understand the importance of give a meal to a child afternoon.
Over the years, Dara Robinson has led countless fundraising efforts to support the feeding program. But today he revealed that many of the events didn't raise the monies they were hoping for, and he has had to take money out of his own pockets. Added to that, he says that support for these events has waned over the years. So how can you help Dara to keep the feeding program alive? He says volunteers and donations as well as some financial assistance are needed because it takes roughly $3,000 a month to keep this program running.
We never refuse anything in our food. You understand? Normally people give rice, flour, beans, like anything for the kitchen, seasoning. We even accept meat, stuff like chicken, beef, different thing. And then actually, I always tell people you could give me a container of food, but for prepare that food, cook it, bring it out and make sure your stove, they burn, your bills, they go up. We also need finance to keep up with anything there, you understand? So one program like this roughly run me like almost $3,000 for the month. And that not include my light bill and water where they go up because then kids use toilet, we wash up every day.
If you'd like to help to keep the Dara feeding program alive, you can call 623-3662 for more information. Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5lees.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, good night.